So now really I'm just going to hand over to Matt to talk us through a little bit about setting the scene for things in Scotland and sustainability. So yeah, over to you.
That's good. Thank you, Amy. So I thought might be useful to give a bit of an overview as to what the Scottish Government expects from our universities and colleges and the progress to date, and a bit about the direction of travel. So to start off, the main piece of national legislation relating to climate change is the Climate Change Emissions Reductions Targets Scotland Act 2019. So this piece of legislation sets out targets to reduce Scotland's emissions of all greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2045. So what do we mean by net zero? This basically means that on a national scale, any emissions that are released, for example, through industry, are balanced equally by other activities that remove or store greenhouse gas emissions, such as forestry and peatland restoration. The national target of 2045 is 5 years ahead of the UK as a whole, and this is based on the recommendations of the Committee on Climate Change. That's because Scotland has a big landmass relative to its population, so we're able to actually store more carbon, manage our land better. To support this overall target and to ensure there isn't a mad rush in 2040 to do lots of activity to get to net zero, there are interim targets, and this includes a 56% reduction by 2020, 75% reduction by 2030, and a 90% reduction by 2040. As a note, the graph on the right shows that compared to its baseline year of 1990, Scotland has reduced its emissions by 50% by 2018. So that's really good progress. However, it does mean that it didn't meet its target of 54% by 2020. This may not seem too much off that, but every year counts at the moment, and it's really concerning that that curve is starting to flatten. You can see the really good progress going down, and it's starting to flatten. So we need to reinvigorate our actions and keep pushing. Next slide, please, Jill. So what does this mean for our universities and colleges? Well, the Scottish Government recognises the importance institutions play as leaders and really role models within our communities. And that collectively public bodies, not just universities and colleges, but also NHS, police, fire, for example, they also contribute a large source of emissions. So since 2015-16, the Scottish Government made it mandatory for public bodies of a certain size, and that means most universities and colleges, that they have to map and report their emissions each year. So this process is called the Public Bodies Climate Change Duty Reporting. And all the reporting information is publicly available through the Scottish Sustainability Network website. So I put a link at the bottom. And there's a screenshot of one of the downloads there. So Jill's just going to go in and show you what that looks like. So you can go into the website. You can then find your institution fairly easy and then download the latest report. So Jill's going to bring that up. So yeah, so this is what you'll see when you download your latest report. So this is for Ayrshire College, just because it's the alphabetical order. And you can go through each tab, but the most important thing for us really to look at is part 3, which is emissions targets and projects. And I've highlighted a few of the most important bits. And what you can do is you can take the baseline, which is 2015-16, so that's that first row in yellow, and you can see what the emissions are for there. So you can see that total is 2,813 tonnes of CO2 equivalent. And by year 4, which is the last reporting year, 2018-19, that reduced to 2,353 tonnes. So as you can see, Ayrshire College over the past 4 years has reduced their emissions that they reported by 16.4%. So that's the useful thing to look at how your institution is doing and what the relative investments is over the last few years. And below that, there's a breakdown of all the emission sources which they're currently reporting. And this does change from institutions. That's important to recognise. But what use is this information? So Jill, if you can go back to the PowerPoint and go on to the next slide. Yep, so once you've kind of worked out what is your average reduction of the last few years, you can compare it to the rest of the sector. So EAUC Scotland completes a sector analysis each year based on all the reported data. And this year, for the first time, we've separated out the data and we've created a bespoke report for both the Scottish college sector and for the Scottish university sector. So I've pulled out some of the key stats from each report. And you can see, for example, that colleges have reduced their reported emissions by 23% since 2015-16. And by 7% in just the last year. For universities, they reduced their reported emissions by 14% since 2015-16 and 4% in the last year. So as I say, what you can do is you can have a look at your own institution's report and compare that figure to the sector average. And these are really good because it can prompt some questions. So are we ahead of the curve? Do we as an institution need to look at larger investments in the next couple of years to catch up with the rest of the sector? And you can use this data to open up questions and discussions with your sustainability manager at your university or college or within your sustainability committee. So this can be really useful. Next slide, please. Yeah, so looking forward, the Scottish Government released a consultation to gather feedback on proposed changes to that process of public bodies climate change duty reporting. And the outcomes of that consultation were published in June. So that's a picture of the report on the right. It's quite a lengthy document, it's about 50+ pages, but I wanted to pull out 3 proposals which are very likely to be proposed within Scottish Government and passed. Firstly, that from 2022, the Scottish Government is expecting that reports include a date by which institutions will have zero or net zero direct emissions. What we mean by direct emissions is that these relate to heating, so natural gas or boilers, electricity use, any university or college-owned vehicles, and any refrigeration gases. Secondly, the Scottish Government is expecting that institutions set a target for indirect emissions. So these relate to things like water, waste, business travel, commuting, and procurement. And lastly, and this is a really good one as well, how does institutional spending align to these targets? So this is really positive work from the Scottish Government, and it means that every institution should soon, if they haven't already, be making plans for net zero. And this is an ideal time and space for you as student leaders to contribute to the creation of these plans and pushing for stronger standards. So for example, some institutions aren't currently reporting business travel or commuting emissions. But what we see is that for some institutions, that is the biggest source of their emissions. So if you're not reporting them, you're missing a big chunk of that jigsaw. So you as student leaders can say, actually, we need to push further and we need to include those as part of our indirect emissions targets, for example. Next slide, please. So it's important to say that sustainability, as all things you just mentioned to me in the introductions, isn't just about greenhouse gas emissions. But in terms of legislation, that is the main focus of institutions. But in reality, sustainability is so much wider. And these are just some of the examples shown to show that. From an EAUC Scotland perspective, these are just as important and crucial for creating a wholly sustainable institution approach. And we do work on these. So if you're looking to support on anything sustainability related, do just get in touch. And it's great to hear, you know, of student work on period poverty, looking at zero waste, for example. These are so valid and needed. So do get in touch. So next slide, please. So finally, as a last slide, it's great to have you all join today. From my experience working in students' unions, I worked at the University of Stirling Students' Union before this. I have first-hand experience of the positive impacts sabbatical officers, part-time officers, student volunteers and staff bring to creating change on campuses. And that's in everything, and that is no different when it comes to sustainability. If we are to meet the Scottish Government targets of net zero by 2040, we need students to be leaders on our campuses and to push for stronger targets, push for accountability and push for transparency. So in the past couple of months, we've developed a few resources that we've published today, and we'll send them out as a follow-up for you to use. And this includes a Student Leaders for Sustainability Guide, which summarises some of the information I presented just now, but also wider ideas and resources that you can use and how to tap into other networks and groups. Alongside this, we've also created an example Smart Sustainability Action Plan for internal sustainability action within your student union or student association. And finally, my colleague Jill, who's on the call today, has created a simplified greenhouse gas emission calculator. Again, if we were to tackle the climate crisis, unions and associations should also play their part in reducing their direct negative environmental impacts. So today, I think it's still only the University of Stirling Students' Union who have mapped their carbon footprint. So it'd be great to expand that, and we've created this calculator for you to do that, and we're always happy to support. And then I think it's last slide, Jill. So yeah, thank you. I mean, that's it from me for the moment, but if you have any questions, do pop them in the chat box and I'll try and answer them. I'm also going to stay back at the end of the event, so after we do close, if you have any questions or you want to chat a bit more, then please do. I'm more than happy to help. So thank you, and I did that in 9 minutes, that's all right. So quick whistle-stop tour. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, perfectly timed, making my job very easy as a chair. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Would really recommend those resources as well. I've had a look at them, and yeah, they're all fantastic. So Thank you very much. Okay, so next we have Marta from the Climate Commission, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the kind of UK context there. So over to you, Marta.
Yes, I'm gonna share a few slides so it's easier to follow me. So just tell me if you can. Oh no, wait. Sorry. Share screen. Just let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, that's it there.
Okay, perfect. So, hello everyone. So today I will, I'm here just to give you a brief overview of what the Climate Commission for UK Higher and Further Education is and what is working on. As well as a student, you can get involved with our work. So the Climate Commission is basically a partnership between Association of Colleges, EAUC, the HE sector and the University UK. And altogether, we are trying to provide a sector-wide response to the climate emergency. This Climate Commission was launched in November 2019, and we are hoping to give some results by the end of 2020. Because of this challenging task, we decided to focus only on 5 priorities, and we think these are both important for the Association of Colleges and the university. So the priorities that we are focusing on are mobilizing the sector, research and innovation, measuring and reporting greenhouse gas emission, deep adaptation, and student experience in education. Within our work, we believe that students are actually, we believe that because we are the one that will inherit the climate change, we believe that our voice and opinion and idea should actually heard. So this is what the Climate Commission is trying to. And indeed, within the Climate Commission, there are 3 student commissioners that are working along with 4 institutional commissioners. And basically, we are trying to guide the commission work, but also attend events or promote the commission work. So far, we have also participated in these evidence gathering events that basically were events where expert witnesses, staff, manager from academia and from colleges and university were gathering all together to share their knowledge and to influence the Climate Commission work. And in each of these events, basically students were participating and giving questions to ensure that our point of view and our voice is heard within this work. At the same time, we have also participated in UNESCO Future of Education initiative. And basically, it was a really nice experience because we gather opinion from 40 students across the UK, and we are in the process of writing the report and send this report to UNESCO, and hopefully this will help to shape future global policies on education. And lastly, we have just launched a climate chat with student podcast. Basically, is a place for students to share their experience or their studies, how they relate with sustainability and climate change. And we believe that this is a really interesting opportunity because you can kind of be a source of, try to inspire their students with your work as well as just share new knowledge. So this was mostly how we as a student commissioner, what we are doing within the Climate Commission. And now just to give you an idea of how you as a student can be involved in our work. I think, first of all, we have launched this 10-minute survey that is a survey where we are trying to gather as many as possible view on the 5 working priorities. So far, we have 65 responses, so that's already great across the UK, but we are hoping to gather more ideas to actually influence much more the work at the Climate Commission. If you have any idea how you want to get further involved with the Climate Commission, you can always email Sonia. The email, I think it will be sent to you later on. And we're really always looking forward to work with new students, and we are really flexible and adaptable with new ideas. Of course, come to our podcast. I think that's an interesting opportunity. And the last one, I think that it's a really great one, is we are planning to run a consultation within students about the University Climate Action Roadmap. The data are still, well, we still don't have any information about the date, but we will be sharing with you this soon if you're interested. So I think that was all for me. If you have any more questions, just ask me or email Sonia Perez that she can help with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta. That's really interesting. And yeah, Sonia has put her email in the chat as well, so people can contact her there. But yeah, I will definitely be getting involved, that's for sure. So thank you.
That's great.
But okay, next we have Anna from SOS UK to talk a little bit about Teach the Future, which is a very exciting campaign. So yeah, over to you, Anna.
I'm just going to share my screen for some slides we have. My laptop does this really strange, so I apologise. There we go. So I'm Anna Brown and I'm from Teach the Future Scotland. Teach the Future Scotland is the Scottish Youth Climate Strike and National Union of Students Scotland joint campaign to reorientate the education system around the climate emergency and ecological crisis. Our learning needs to reflect the severity of the climate crisis, so Teach the Future Scotland demands the reform of the education system. Currently, our education system is not equipping students for the climate crisis, with little teaching on the crisis being provided as teachers' under-education on the issue is reflected onto students. This has led to a lack of understanding about the need for climate education and thus a lack of pressure for change, leading us to create Teach the Future Scotland as a way to demand government to adequately educate students on the climate crisis. In order to tackle the climate crisis, we need to reform our education system to provide students and teachers with the skills, experiences and values needed to understand and carry out the solutions to achieve climate justice and thrive in a green society. Teach the Future Scotland's campaign is centred around our 4 asks for the Scottish Government. Our first ask is for a government commissioned review into how the whole of the Scottish formal education system is preparing students for the climate emergency and ecological crisis. Our second ask is for the inclusion of the climate emergency and ecological crisis in teacher training and a new professional teaching qualification. We came up with this ask because our research found that 75% of teachers feel they haven't received adequate training to teach students about climate change. And our third ask is for increased priority for sustainability in school inspections and publicly influenced education rankings. And our final ask is for a Scottish Climate and Biodiversity Emergency Education Act. From these asks, we started our campaign. So we launched our campaign on the 6th of July with a digital week of action. And at the end of our campaign, we launched our banner drop at the Scottish Parliament. So 7 of the climate education advocates took the message directly to the government at the Scottish Parliament on this Sunday, the 19th of July. Esther, one of the advocates, said we decided it was time to take our lobbying away from its online setting directly to the doorstep of power and those in charge of education in Scotland. The next thing we did was work on a Green Recovery for Education campaign. Following the announcements from the UK Government, Teach the Future Scotland organised a nationwide campaign to lobby their representatives into supporting a green recovery for our economy for the allocation of funding to sustainable areas. We did this through a mass email campaign to MSPs. In addition to that, we sent letters to both Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, and the Deputy First Minister and Cabinet Secretary for Education and Skills, John Swinney, calling for their support for more climate education and a green recovery. We received positive responses from both offices, leading to us scheduling a meeting for next month with the Deputy First Minister. We have also made contact with multiple councillors who have supported us in setting up a meeting with Willie Rennie, leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats, and Beatrice Wishart, the spokesperson for education. Alongside all of this, we became a member of Learning for Sustainability Scotland through a meeting with Pete Higgins, and we also have created international contacts with climate education and justice groups such as in Poland. And we have gained 5 specific supporting organisations for Scotland, as well as maintaining Teach the Future UK's ones, which I think is over 100 at this point. So in all of this, we need volunteers and people to help us. So a popular way to help us is to become a supporting organisation, as I spoke about. You can also help us build our networks and sign up to our mailing list. And if you yourself want to get involved, you can become a volunteering. You do this through signing up to one of our onboardings and joining our workspace. We'll be advertising our onboardings on our social media and email lists very soon. Our final message is that education reform is not something we should have to ask for. It is something that should be given to us as a right. It is now more than ever critical to begin discussions on this topic, and that is exactly what we aim to address. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, it's such an interesting campaign, and you guys have done some amazing work. And yeah, I follow you guys on Twitter and Instagram. Would recommend that everyone else does because it is fantastic. So yeah, thank you to all of our speakers this afternoon. It's been great to hear from you all. And now we're gonna head into some breakout rooms and have some discussion there. So I think, Matt, you're gonna sort us out on that one.
Yep, do you want to introduce the questions? I'm just going to quickly do the sorting.
Oh yeah, no problem. So we have a few kind of questions for to get started on the discussion within the breakout rooms. So you can start by reintroducing yourself and what your sustainability goal is. So kind of reiterating what we talked about in the introduction. Then what are the opportunities for realising this goal? What are the challenges? How can we as student leaders in a student network be able to support each other and campaign really efficiently and kind of cohesively? How can EAUC help you? And yeah, I'm going to post these in the chat because I ran through them super fast. And then they will be with you guys when you go into your groups. And if you could also please nominate someone to feedback at the end, that would be fantastic. So yeah, I hope that.
Okay. That should be all set up, so you should be able to go to your rooms in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I love the countdowns. Okay. Enjoy breakout rooms, guys.
Hello, so hopefully we'll have 5 people, no, 1 people, where am I? Jodie, did I not assign you a room? That's rude of me. 2 seconds.
Hello. I will give everyone a few minutes to return. Hi everyone. I think is that everyone back? I think so. Yeah, okay. So hopefully you all enjoyed your discussion, and you also picked someone to feed back to me, which we will do now. So sorry to my group, but we're gonna go first.
Okay, hi. I'm Leah. I don't know if you guys, I'm for everyone else, because I think I missed the introductions right at the beginning. I'm at the environment officer at the Student Association at the University of St Andrews. And yeah, we kind of like went through a little bit in our discussion today, just now, around like what are the different universities doing, what are kind of some challenges. Was really interesting to see that obviously it's interesting in like colleges or smaller universities, like it's I think a lot easier to like implement things, but then again I think it's also a lot about who kind of the leadership and things like that. I talked a little bit about in St Andrews that it's really exciting that we have a lot more happening with sustainability in this last year through together in collaboration with the university, because there was a creation of the university and the Environmental Sustainability Board, which four of our students sit on as well. So we're kind of in the process of like drafting a sustainability strategy for university, but then we also have the Student Association, which is kind of a bit separate with sustainability, which also has a sustainability strategy that needs to be updated. What else do we have? BCSA got rid of all single-use plastics in canteen, which I thought was very exciting. Glasgow, wait, I don't know if you guys, what did you say? Which, Sterling, you guys said that you struggling a bit with regards to like furloughing people, staff, in kind of doing things, getting things going, the university. But everyone's kind of looking at strategies at the moment from what I'm getting. So I think that's an interesting point that we all have a little bit in common. So something to explore definitely with regards to pushing for like ambitious sustainability strategies. Amy, anything I missed, anything you'd like to add?
All good, perfect. Thank you. So will I just take a volunteer from another group, because I'm not sure who was in what group.
So we got breakout 2. Do we have someone from breakout 2?
I don't know what breakout I was in, but I can go.
We were breakout room 2, Jill.
Was I too? Okay, great. So I was with Kiara, Alex, Hannah, and Nicholas. And we had a great chat about the opportunities to build upon the sustainable travel and the virtual meetings that have become normal because of the pandemic. Also, you know, and rethinking how we're using our streets, like the really interesting work that's gone into creating new cycle lanes in Edinburgh, for example. A bit concerned about the increase in disposables and single-use plastic because of mask use and so forth. And what else do we talk about? Nicholas told us about his refurbishment of laptops project and work that they were doing to address the gender gap in cycling, so events specifically for women. There was there was also a general feeling that's important to engage positively in this issue so as not to put students off. And we all agreed that that if the students were to work collectively, all the unions and associations, we would have a much more powerful voice, especially to, if we, for instance, within a city area, to lobby collectively the council on common goals and objectives. And that was a great opportunity. And in terms of how EAUC Scotland could help, there was a feeling that organising regular meetings and perhaps coordinating campaigns would be of benefit. Is that everything from my group? Does anyone else want to add something? Oh, I think Nicholas does.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight not only the opportunity to work locally, but the opportunity to work nationally across colleges, all students in the country, for a single campaign. That can be, for example, cycling. That day, all the students across the country take the streets, they cycle together to ask for the councils and their governments for more investments in more space for roads, in the roads for cycling, for more investment on public transport, etc., etc. But all together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think having us all together today really like demonstrates that, and we can harness some of that political power. Next year we have our Holyrood election coming up, and we can kind of look even like regionally how we could do things, and match up with like a few universities in the region to kind of influence that nationally. So yeah, very exciting times. Okay, I'm going to really quickly go to group 3.
So in week 3 we had Heriot Watt, Napier and Edinburgh University Students' Associations. And we were talking, Colin from Heriot Watt was talking about building sustainability into the curriculum. He managed to get this into the partnership agreement in the university, and we were just discussing kind of how we could take the next steps. So it was mentioned that St Andrews have a really good tool of mapping the sustainable development goals into the curriculum, and there were like faculty reps at Keele as well who like solely look at sustainability. So we're just looking at kind of the next steps to make this kind of idea and this concept, putting that into practice. A collective issue or kind of idea across Edinburgh was that they want to encourage active travel, but obviously this can be quite hard with the hills. So we were looking at potentially the Energy Saving Trust. They offer funding for electric bikes, but also as well just for ordinary bikes there is quite a lot of funding available. So again, looking at how we can put these ideas into practice, like the Climate Challenge Fund or local organisations, and like RGU, for example, they rent out a fleet of bikes to students, so kind of looking at how they could try and put this kind of thing in place. And then there were also issues, again, it's similar to what someone else had said about lobbying for bike lanes in Edinburgh, because Napier and Heriot Watt obviously have some campuses which are a bit out of the way and are near main roads and don't really have the infrastructure. So again, kind of looking at a collaborative project across the students' associations. And finally, there was kind of talk about potentially having a sustainability week. So we do have kind of Scotland-wide one, and we have like a global climate change week, but because these are actually people in a meeting, it'd be really good to have one again across Edinburgh, potentially in November. So that's something that they're going to go away with and discuss, and to do kind of activities. And maybe this could be about applying for funding or lobbying or that kind of thing as well. So I know a lot of you on here from Edinburgh, so maybe that's something you can get involved in. So that was just some ideas. I don't know if I've missed anything. I don't want to. Okay.
I think you're all good. Yeah, well, thank you everyone for that. It's been really interesting to hear all the different projects and ideas, and I think being able to have
sorry,
is there another group?
One more breakout. Yeah,
sorry.
Breakout 4.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed you. Group 4. Who do we have from group 4?
Yeah, that was it.
Ankit. Sorry, Ankit.
That's all right. I'll try to make it brief anyway, if don't want to make That was pretty much the same thing that we were having the same interview, and they Heriot Watt the officers from there, and I think Anna Brown was there as well in our group. First of the thing which we were trying to find out is how we can implement the policies into the institution, how we can push our university to make a policy. And then we find out Dan from St Andrews, they already have a policy, and his challenge is to implement the things which his predecessor has put down. For myself, it was something which we need to make a kind of policy and push it over university to make it down, which we can implement. Another thing we talk about was again about the cycling. We find out the St Andrew already has that kind of bike hire scheme, which is I think £80 for a semester or a whole year. And another thing we find out from St Andrews is and talk about the E-Table campus. So they already have some locations in the campus where they grow some food to help sustainability and other things within the campus. this is what we can work out on our campus in Napier. And I was talking to how we can share it with the Heriot Ward, because Sahel campus, which is very nearby to the Heriot Ward, we can do something in common or any collaboration together. That's so pretty much in brief. If I'm missing anything, please guys feel free, Lizzie or Anna or Dan, if you want to add up anything.
I think the only other thing was talking about how to engage the non-engaged in sustainability campaigns. So how do we reach outside of the core eco freaks, and also people. I mean, I've moved from a university with quite social sciences to very heavy STEM, and then like not as engaged in the same types of campaigns. So trying to think of new campaigns which relate to STEM subjects rather than social sciences, humanities, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you group 4. I'm very sorry I missed you the first time round. But yeah, lots of amazing ideas. Really important points about engaging with students, getting that kind of really broad support from all different kind of subject areas, some of those intersections as well, looking at like how we can involve more women in cycling and sport and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it really is such a broad issue and so many different things that we could work on. And I think that's why it's really good to have this network and to be able to share those ideas with one another. And hopefully it's something that we can continue to do. So I'm going to wrap up a little bit, and there's a few points from EAUC and kind of ideas of how we could take this forward. So I'm going to run through them. But first off, there will be a kind of GIST mailing list set up by EAUC. Very hard to say quickly, which will mean that everyone can kind of interact online, follow up on any discussion points, or if you heard something from another group that you thought kind of would work really well at your institution, then you could ask about that kind of thing. And yeah, and then EAUC can send out emails of support, send out resources like the ones that Matt had talked about at the beginning as well. So that should be really helpful for everyone. And then also we are hoping to continue this networking sort of support system and be able to have future meetings and kind of keep up the conversation throughout the year, hopefully hand over to some of our future officers and kind of support each other across Scotland really, which is very exciting. So yeah, we can, I think there's a few emails already been popped in the chat, but they'll also be in the slides and in the recording as well. You can see people's emails to contact EAUC if you have any questions or anything that you would like to know. So as Matt said at the beginning, he is going to stick around for the next half hour, or maybe 25 minutes, but I've kept you guys for an extra 5 minutes. But yeah, and answer any questions, have a bit more chat or networking. So yeah, if there's anything that is on your mind that you want to discuss a little bit more, then you can stick around and do that. So yeah, I believe that is us. Thank you everyone for joining today. I am going to jump out, but if you want to stay and chat, more than welcome to. I might actually also pop my email address in the chat in case anyone has any further questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amy, for your chat, and thank you also to Anna Mata for as student presenters as well, and for everyone joining. And yeah, I'm happy to hang around. So if anyone wants to keep the conversation going or have any questions, just feel free.
Okay, thank you everyone. I have put
Thank
that
you.
in the chat. Bye, so nice to meet you all.
We can ask questions, right?